Hello guys and welcome back to the Motor Recon podcast. I'm your host Adam. I'm joined again today by Rob. The first topic we're going to talk about today has actually been submitted by a listener called Lee, so I'll give him a quick shout out there.
I'll do.
What he's wanting to do is for us to look at some expensive but unreliable cars.
Yes.
So these can range from I'd probably say my estimate expensive cars 50 grand plus.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a fair estimate. If you're dropping 50 grand on something, you would expect some sort of reliability, let's be honest.
Yeah, for most normal people, 50 grand plus is an expensive car. So we sort of went in with that in mind. And we've come up with a few things that some of them are probably quite well known. Mm-hmm. I've obviously done a little bit of digging on this, but the first one we're going to discuss is McLaren.
Yeah, now I was actually quite surprised by this one.
Yeah. In particular, we found a few examples of this as well. Now, as you probably all well know, I'm a massive McLaren fan. Love what they're doing. I know obviously they're a very new brand, so they're still working out a lot of different teething problems and things like that. So we started digging around on forums to see what we could sort of come up with. Obviously, there's a lot of horror stories regarding this. You're spending 120 grand plus on a car. Even if it's a brand new car from a new manufacturer, you sort of have a few expectations in mind.
Yeah.
So we found a gentleman on a forum. I'm not going to name his name because I don't know if, obviously it might not want to be talked about, but he's owned 7 McLarens since the 12C right up to the very latest, the 720S from his, well, he might get another one soon, but so he started out with his 12C, a right-hand drive one, Spider, delivered it in the UK. Now, he had a few little niggly problems with this. The first one he had was the brake discs the brake pads locking onto the brake discs. Mm-hmm. This was after he'd washed the car and he put it back into the garage wet, which again, could that be kind of his fault? Because
I think he admits that in his comment because he does say that he made the mistake of washing it and putting it back wet.
Yeah, so because brake discs do rust very fast.
No, it's true, and I think
brakes.
That would happen with any car with steel brakes, obviously, if you don't dry it off properly. Or more importantly, use it. I mean, you can dry them off by
using
just
it.
Drive them, yeah.
So I think he does kind of admit that was the problem he had there. Obviously, had to take it to a service centre on a flatbed because they couldn't unstick the brakes and they had to get it released from that area. Now, again, while that kind of is his fault, I don't see that as too much of a big deal.
No, neither do I.
He admits it was sort of his fault, but then again, should it happen if you did it once? It could be a little fault, I guess, but we'll see. It depends how long, again, he didn't use it for either. If he left it for a day, if he left it for 2 weeks, he doesn't specify. So then what he did was he then got another 12C, but this one was a coupe, not a Spider. Not that really makes a difference, other than the roof can't go wrong. So what he had on this one was a faulty left front tyre sensor. Again, not that big of a mechanical problem.
And I also think as well, that's something that could go wrong with anybody's car.
Yeah, I know someone who's
I
got a
know
faulty tyre
several
sensor,
people who have that, and I'm not entirely sure whether the tyre sensors are just the manufacturer's work. I'm pretty sure
they're probably Bosch. Everything
cars,
you
know what I mean?
Made by Bosch.
I think there could be a lot of. I think it depends what rubber you've got on there. I think it depends on probably quite a few things actually as to whether your tyre sensor is going to work properly. I bet there's quite a lot of factors which McLaren or any other car manufacturer probably doesn't. Well, they can't have any control over that. So.
Yeah. Now, the reason I actually did pick out McLaren is because there's so much beef going around online with them. Because a few have obviously gone into the news for catching fire, like a couple of Sennas and things like that.
Yeah, and obviously I remember the Speedtail.
The pre-production one going in on fire as well. And I think it's just sort of snowballed from there. And everyone's getting this reputation in their head that McLarens are unbelievably bad, never work.
Yeah.
So on this particular Toyota, that was the only fault he had. Was a faulty tyre pressure sensor. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's too bad.
No, I don't think that's bad.
It's nothing. It doesn't affect the car really, unless you keep thinking you've got a flat and you have to get out and keep checking it. So then what he did was he got another 12C Spider.
Yeah.
A different one. Again, he's had these from new apparently, so take that with what you will. So the only issue we ever had with the 12C was a temperature sensor which needed replacing, and it says the car was out of service for a day. And other than that, it's all the dealership at its usual annual checkups and services.
Okay.
Again, not really a big deal. And this guy's obviously he's had 7 McLarens, so he's fairly...
I might also add as well, obviously a temperature sensor is a problem, but he also stated that on that 12C, it was his daily driver for over a year.
Yeah. So it's not like the car was... And as well, this is also... A lot of people come up with this, like they'll buy cars, like these really expensive cars that are fragile and handmade. Usually handmade things tend to go wrong a bit more because there's more sort of human error. and they never use them. And not using a car is worse for it than being used.
Yeah, it's
in many cases,
isn't
because
it?
it can seize up, things go wrong, and
it's always the same, isn't it? When you're looking for a second-hand car, obviously one of the things that people say is, one old lady owner. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, because if the car's been sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks,
it's not moved at all.
It's not moved. I'd rather buy a car that's been used.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
properly used as well. Because people in the market for these sort of cars do get het up on that, but that's a different issue completely. So after his 12C Spider, he got a P1. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, at the time, this is the pinnacle, the really expensive. I think they were, what were they, roughly £1 million when they came out?
Yeah.
Quite a pricey car. Now, this, again, if you're spending that kind of money on a car, and they've had a couple of years by this point to sort of embed the engines and things, because they are all based on a similar platform.
Yeah, if you look at McLaren's range, you'll quickly realise that it's just sort of like your standard V8, isn't it? It's a twin turbocharged unit.
It's a similar base unit, and then they've just fettled with it a bit to make it more powerful. So he's had two issues with the P1. Again, so he had the first one being a loose rear sort of indicator.
Yeah, that is a problem.
It is a problem.
It could fall out.
Yeah, it should be screwed on properly.
Yeah.
And they are just LEDs around the edge as well, so obviously quite a long part. And it says the IRIS infotainment system failed and needed to be replaced.
That's quite a big one.
It is. Now that, again, a lot of things around this seem to be stemming with electrical issues. Not necessarily mechanical faults, apart from the light nearly falling out, but that's obviously a slight build quality issue. But mechanical problems, he's not had much bad luck with that.
No.
It's more electrical problems, and I think that may be where they are falling down a bit. Now again, this isn't a mechanical problem. You could probably live without that unless you...
Oh, I don't know what that includes, though. Well, could be...
On that generation of McLaren, it doesn't have anything really to do with the running of the car other than changing the traction control things, but you can do that from your little toggle buttons as well.
I was also thinking, if it failed completely, what's actually being displayed on the screens?
Well, they have a digital odometer for that. So the actual screen in the middle, I think he's talking about here.
Yeah, you see what I mean, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, what if you wanted to use the... Well, I think sat-nav's out of the game, isn't it, for
example?
Yeah,
well, they were renowned for being bad on them anyway, so I don't think you would
well,
be.
I think...
Yeah, also the heating.
Okay.
I don't think you could do the heating. I don't think you could... Actually, no, you could with the toggle buttons take the car in out of race mode and things like that.
I think the trouble is you have no idea just how badly that could have affected the usability, and it definitely needed replacing. Yeah.
But he says other than that, which again both electrical faults in a sense and one slight build quality issue, is it was never had an issue in for its annual services. That's the only time it ever saw dealers.
Right. Okay.
So I'm not seeing a pattern here of where this massive issue of cars having problems is coming from. This is obviously only one example, and you could probably find the one person who's had issues.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. So after his P1, he then got the 650S Spider. Now it says this car, and he still has this one. This car's been his daily for 3.5 years, which a daily car for 3.5 years. No issues, and only time it has been back to the dealership was for its yearly service.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, for a hand-built car, I don't think that's bad. And again, a daily driver for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
You'd struggle to probably have no issues in a normal car for that long, which obviously, again, is impressive. Straight after that, he then also got a 675 LT Spider. Cracking car. I love them to bits. So it says the car has done, at the time he's written this, it's done 1,500-mile road trips. It's been driven hard up in the mountains, never had a single issue, and only seen the inside of the workshop for its annual service again.
Very impressive again.
Yeah. I can probably see why that, because it is technically based on the 650S, so if they've nailed the stuff on the 650S,
chances are it
shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad, yeah.
Now, this one is obviously now got a 720S, and he's just only comment on this from when this was back in 2018 when he'd written this, but it says never had a single problem, and it's just gone in for its first completely routine annual service.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a guy, he's very experienced with the brand, and there's this whole mothballing thing online about them being terrible, they never work, all this kind of stuff, but having 7 and not really having any issues other than electrical stuff, and even then not that serious.
I think, the only major serious one is the infotainment. Well, the infotainment system and the light falling off are relatively serious issues. What you do get the impression of is, though, as far as this guy's experience is concerned, as the time has gone on, the quality and the finish has improved.
Yeah.
So as time has gone on, the newer McLarens
they're getting
becoming
better
more
and better
reliable,
and better.
which is that's the right direction you want to be going in. Some of the brands we're about to move on to, unfortunately, just struggle to seem to...
But the interesting thing with this, this has only started to mothball recently, really.
Yeah.
And it's surprising given that the closer to life they get. And we did look in other forums as well, and it's similar sort of problems. I think as well, I've heard a lot of people have problems with the after-sales service.
Right, okay.
So that could potentially be an issue. But that's no way to slate the car's reliability. That's the company not dealing with the after-sales properly. So while they might have their issues, I think they've been massively over-exaggerated and over-egged from what we've seen online anyway. Now, the next one, I'll let you have your say on it.
I think this is a classic one. Quite a lot of people probably share the opinion of this, and it's Range Rover. You could probably chuck in the whole JLR brand. Much like McLaren, again, I really like the brand. I think some of the cars they make are great. And yeah, don't get me wrong, it wouldn't put me off buying one if I had the money. This is the thing. Yeah, looking at this, you get the impression that the Range Rover, just the standard ones, I'm not talking about the Sportier, just the Range Rover, you get the impression that they're very unreliable.
Yeah.
Maybe they are quite unreliable. I've heard some horror stories about them.
Yeah.
But I still think, even taking that into consideration, it's the best big 4x4 out there.
Oh, yeah. Because it's the only one, really, other than the G-Wagon, which is massively more expensive.
It can handle actually
off-road, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Either way, what we're looking at here is a What Car survey that was taken in, I think it was 2018.
Yeah, September 2018.
Polled over 18,000 car owners who rated 159 models between 1 and 4 years old and documenting any of the problems they experienced over the last 12 months. Long and story of it is that the Range Rover was second least reliable.
Yeah, which, while that obviously is horrendous, and I think that it's something that they probably do need to work on.
I genuinely do believe that if you were to look at JLR and you were to say what are the things they need to work on, I think restoring the punters' confidence in the reliability of their cars has to be a big one.
The one thing I will say is that obviously while they have these problems, you see them everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's true. And I think, that's the thing. They've nailed the brand and they've nailed that side of things. I think even more people are being put off buying them because of that reputation. Let's take the XC as an example. You don't see all that many of them around.
No.
Frankly. And they should, in the UK at least as an example, be muscling in on the territory of your 3 Series and your C-Class. Yeah. But I think a lot of people who are going out to buy those cars are thinking, well, the BMW, the Mercs and the Audis, they're reliable. I can depend on those.
Yeah, even though they're not.
But the point stands is what people think.
Yeah.
And I think they take a look at the XE, and as pretty as it is, I don't think it's necessarily as capable as the other 3. And I also think that reliability stigma holds it back. So.
Yeah, no, and I probably would agree with you on that quite so. And also as well, it might come into price though, because they are expensive. Now, don't get me wrong. Like if you compare the big Range Rover, you compare it to the likes of the X5s, X7s, perhaps, and Q8, Q7s, and Q8s. Now, looks wise, I prefer it over all of them. There's not a question in that. It is a better looking car. It's more elegant. It's
understated.
Classic.
Exactly. It's a classic design.
The interior is much nicer, but obviously that's subjective. I just think that is the case anyway. Now, I know quite a lot of people who've got Range Rovers as well, and a few of them have had issues. Mainly, again, electrical problems though, rather than mechanical problems.
I would argue that probably that's the case for a lot of modern cars. Obviously, we lean more and more on electrical systems. Yeah. Obviously, they are getting better through time, but the point stands, the more complicated you make the electrical system, I suppose there is that increased possibility of it to fail.
Yeah. Now, again, like you said, it wouldn't put me off personally. If it was my own money, I'd buy out of any of the flock of SUVs.
Agreed.
It just would. It's better.
And we're both, this is the trouble, but we're both not really fans
of SUVs.
And I might also add as well, I genuinely could never see myself buying an Evoque.
Oh no, God heaven no. It has no purpose. It's a tiny little Range Rover. It's not that luxurious.
No.
it's good looking, I'd say. It's not a bad looking car. Most of the ones that sell a front wheel drive, which defeats the purpose of off-road. I know they don't go off-road. No one uses them for that. I'm not saying that.
No, but in my head, my argument has always been, if it's never going to see a dirt track and it's never going to go off-road, I may as well have the better handling capabilities and go for something like an estate.
Yeah, which has just as much room. It just doesn't have the higher driving position.
And frankly, if you went for something with X-Drive or Quattro, it'll probably handle that occasional bit of snow you throw at it better.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, it does always have an argument. I think people should go for it for the status symbol and things like, oh, look at me, I've got a Range Rover Evoque.
And I think that's what we both hate.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the reason why we can't stand them.
Yeah, if you don't use it for towing heavy weight or actually going off-road...
You need to question
why you're
buying it. Yeah, I know.
And also as well in the current climate as well, I'm not a Greenpeace activist by any stretch of the means, but...
It does seem out of place, doesn't it, in that respect?
Yeah, especially if you go to London. London is ram-packed full of Range Rovers and things like this, and why? You're in a city centre. You do not need it. Out in the countryside or farming or anything like that, go nuts. But in central London, why? You need a Twizy or a smart car or something. You don't need a Range Rover.
It's true, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. And Bentley Bentegas and everything.
Oh, we chuck them all in there.
Yeah. So, going slightly off topic there, but they come back. They have a horrendous reputation for being unreliable. And I suppose, again, when we're looking online and digging into this, it does mainly seem to be electrical faults more so than anything. And our people just think this, it is unreliable in that sense, but the cars themselves... They're not. It wouldn't stop you driving unless, like they say, the brakes locked on.
But as you say, electrical systems control so much of the car. I think genuinely it probably could. There will be electrical faults which are full-on showstoppers.
Oh yeah, completely. Like I say, the computer that controls power to the wheels and everything stopped working. Yeah, you might.
And I also think coming off the failure of an electrical system, you could end up with a major mechanical fault
or crash.
Well, no, you could end up in the situation where the engine might rip itself to bits.
Yeah, because it's telling it one thing.
Because it's telling it the wrong thing to do at the wrong time.
Could happen.
So
I think it's a good place to start. But again, like you said, I think again it's been not exaggerated in that sense, but it's massively out of proportion from what you hear to what people are actually experiencing.
And I might also add as well, obviously, although Range Rover ranked towards the bottom of that list, they were in the doldrums in the bottom of that list with other manufacturers who should be doing better.
BMW.
Like BMW. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the point is, I think all of them have issues that I just think some of them get the stigma put on them harder.
They do. And it's just because you get some people who have louder voices than others, and then they seem to stick. So, the next one we're going to look at, I think this is both came up in our things we thought of unreliable, expensive cars, was Maserati.
Yeah.
Obviously an Italian brand. This is nothing against them in any way. I love Maseratis in that sense, but they are, again, have this reputation for being a bit unreliable. Now, we did find, again, quite a few polls on this, but the one we did found that Maserati was actually the most unreliable. From 2016 to 2019 as well, it got worse. Yeah. So in the last 3 years, their reliability got even worse because the higher the score, so it had 600 and something a score in 2016, and then 774 in 2019.
Yeah.
So it's gone up quite considerably, and it actually placed stone dead last in the terms of the reliability.
And you know what? I think that's a bit of a shame, really, because when you look at the Maserati range, there's a couple of them that I actually happen to quite like.
Oh, me too.
So I would say going from the bottom end, although the name is terrible, I like the car.
Yeah.
And that's the Maserati Ghibli.
Yeah.
I got a soft spot for the Gibbers. And as you say, starts from 54,800 quid.
Yeah, so it did come into our price bracket of what classed as an expensive car.
Though, I think it's a fantastic alternative to something like an E-Class.
Yeah.
I mean, is it as practical? No. Is it as reliable? Almost definitely not.
No.
Is it got the same cabin space? I doubt it. Has it got the best infotainment system? Not at all. Is it cooler?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what? Sounds better.
Sounds better. It's cooler.
And actually, at 54,000 starting price, you'd struggle to get a fairly well-spec'd AMG Mercedes, brand new, E-Class or S-Class for that sort of money.
I think you struggle to get a premium quote-unquote brand for less than that.
Well, it's
because Maserati, it is a premium brand, Whether you like it or not, as far as history
it's part of the
is
Maserati
concerned,
family, and
as far as
part of the
history,
Ferrari family.
Exactly, but if you look in history, as far as they're concerned, it sits with your Aston Martins and your Ferraris in history.
Yeah, it's been racing longer than Ferrari.
Exactly.
And McLaren and anyone else, really.
And I'd say the same applies for the Quattroporte. Starts at 75,700 quid. So again, it's not a ridiculous starting point.
Yeah. And it looks the same as the Ghibli, just longer.
Yeah.
So you're getting your extra. And that's your S-Class
exactly,
rival. Like go for on your 7
territory.
Series.
And again, there is a strong argument to be made that I would prefer it over that. It is, you know what? People will actually notice you.
Yeah.
They will actually pay attention to you.
Or they'll notice you and think, they might notice you in an S-Class, but the thing that going through their head is something quite not very nice. Whereas if you drive past him in a Maserati, you're thinking, he could have had anything and he's chosen that. Knowing that he's probably going to be sat at the side of the road, not working.
It's the same logic that you take when you buy an Alfa.
Yeah.
It's the same thoughts that are going through your head. You could have had any other car in this price bracket, and technically speaking, it will probably be more reliable and probably be a better car. But it ain't an Alfa.
Yeah, or a Maserati.
Or a Maserati in this case.
Now, on the actual survey itself, it covers everything from, like, say, minor electrical faults right up until the point where the car is literally undrivable or the engine's blown up.
Yeah.
Most of the Maserati stuff seemed to be a bit more serious. Again, Ferrari engines says a lot, but
I think you take your chances.
Yeah.
I think it depends what your priorities are.
Yeah. For me, again, I'd have them over any of the German rivals just because I think they are cooler.
But would you have them over any of your other rivals if it was your money? And this is where that's the thing. As much as I love the Ghibli and the Quattroporte, if I was asked to shell out 75 grand of my own money, I don't know if I could do it.
I'd get an RS6.
But I also think I cannot imagine what the depreciation's like.
Well, it's a never-ending flaw. If depreciation could go negative, I'm pretty sure it would.
Yeah, I cannot imagine how bad it must be.
However, though, it's extremely bad on all the big German cars.
As a matter of fact, we will save this for another topic because I think we should probably look at some second-hand Maseratis and see what we can lay them on for.
We'll do that
another day.
Yeah. As well, just to mention as well, we talked about obviously Range Rovers. The big Range Rover, what I consider the proper Range Rover, starts at 83 grand in the UK. Well, 89. Sorry, 89. No, that's the hybrid one.
Oh, is that the hybrid?
Yeah,
one?
the normal one starts at 83,000 and 83,500 in the UK.
Still a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but you're getting a lot of car.
I would probably end up going for. Oh God, I can't believe I say this. I'd probably end up going for the Range Rover Sport because it can off road still.
Yeah, it can.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
You're not losing that, so I'd probably go for the Sport.
It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it's that
I don't think you're losing that much for the cheapness.
No, you actually get more seats.
No, I don't think you're losing that much in all seriousness.
No, it's just the
bit of ride
luxury and the ride
bit of
height.
ride height, but
yeah.
I'm all right to sacrifice it.
Yeah, not a problem. And also, obviously, the McLaren, some of the older ones which we were talking about, I think the 12C started around 120 grand. Don't quote me on that, but it was something around that number.
Yeah.
But obviously, like the new GT starts, was it 167,000? 130?
Yeah,
163,000 RRP starting from. So they are going up in price.
Yeah.
But looking at what we've seen online and from the few things we've read,
I don't think they're any better or worse than the competitors.
No, not at all.
I think they're...
Yeah, and again, if it is the problem with the after-sales servicing, like the customer service after you've bought the car that's the problem, that should not be criticised, the car's reliability.
However, that is a criticism that can be led at McLaren's door. I think
100%.
That's part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
100%, and I would agree with that, and I think they should, but you see it all the time. Everyone's criticising these cars for having the reliability issues, and what we can find online is it simply doesn't stack up. And I think they should be given a bit of credit for that, but if their after-sales service is the issue, then slate them all you want for that, because that's a problem that should be sorted. So then, in a slightly different topic, we're going to just quickly look at some of the news from the week which had just come out. Yes. One of which I think has taken the internet by storm, the Tesla Cybertruck.
Yeah, obviously, I would definitely recommend you go and watch the launch video with Elon Musk.
Hilarious.
Granted, it's quite amusing, but I think they do cover some important points as well. The Cybertruck, it's interesting on a couple of levels, I think. Design.
While I absolutely hate the design of this car beyond reproaches, I think it's horrible. They've done what they intended to do, and it was stand out in a crowd.
As you said, I quite like it. I like wedge designs. That's why I like the Esprit.
I mean, there's wedges and then there's that.
Yeah, I'll give him his credit, but I think beyond the design, which obviously everybody's looked at, there is some interesting information here. Looking at the tri-motor all-wheel drive configuration options, you can get it with a single motor rear-wheel drive, a dual motor all-wheel drive, and a tri-motor all-wheel drive. Now, the tri-motor one, it is quite impressive on range.
Yeah,
that's what I noticed.
500 plus miles.
Yeah, because I imagine because the truck is a big body sort of floor plan, they can fit a rather large battery in there.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, and I think, what was the starting price on the tri-motor one?
53,000-ish pounds.
It's
if
not
you do
bad.
the convert, I think it was slightly more because if you convert the initial pricing from dollars into pounds, it is 53 grand, but it will be more than that when it actually hits the market. I'm 99% sure.
But either way, I think regardless of price, a 500 plus mile range is very impressive.
Yes.
And that you can't take that away.
No, I won't.
Yeah, you can't take that away.
And
that
0 to
is
60 in
impressive.
2.9 seconds, which was something that big, again, very impressive.
The second thing that is particularly interesting about the Cybertruck is its exoskeleton.
Yeah.
Because it leaves you a rather large space inside the cabin for people.
Yeah, very practical in that
Very
sense.
practical, very interesting. Plus the strength of the paneling as well. There's no denying. Obviously, yes, he chucked a broker the glass. It went through the glass. I get all of that.
We all had a good laugh at that.
Nevertheless, they took a sledgehammer to the door.
Yeah, that didn't
do anything.
Didn't do anything. And yeah, it's a solid metal outer sort of skeleton. Again, pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
If you go in for that sort of thing, I think he's also using renewable sort of recycled metal as well.
If he is, that's very cool.
I'm pretty sure I do remember reading that somewhere. Which I think he's going out there as well. Because you can get like vegan leather in the car and things.
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
sure.
cars
I have no doubt that when you get a Tesla, it's pleather.
It is
like a vegan leather type.
Also,
thing,
marble dashboard.
Cool as hell.
It's either marble effect or actually is marble. I can't remember, but I do like that. But the one thing it keeps coming back to me is the fact that it looks as it does. And also, it's a Marmite car, I think. You either love it or you hate it. Personally, I hate it. Fair enough if you do like it. That's your...
Looks are
your
subjective,
opinion. Yeah, subjective. They've already had I think probably had over that now by the time we're recording. It's 150,000 orders for these. Or at least people putting the name down, one of our friends being one of them.
Yeah.
Even though I'm 99% sure he's not going to get one. But if he's listening to this, don't. So yeah, it's... would you?
No, not at all.
Because it's electric. And
I like
looking at them tyres, it will go off-road.
Yeah, it probably will. I like the technology, don't get me wrong, but I prefer I like the design, but I prefer the design of the 3.
Yeah.
And the S.
All right, though. So imagine a situation, for whatever reason, you needed a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Don't know what for, but...
Yeah, I needed a pickup
whatever
truck.
reason for work.
Yeah.
Now... I know which I'd go for at the moment. Obviously, they might do because the Tesla did a concept of a pickup truck and it looked amazing. It wasn't this. I can't remember what it was called, but it looked absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But it was a bit more of a conventional pickup truck design. And now they've done this. Obviously, it's done attention grabbing. It's going to get the money in, and it's got the press talking about the...
The only thing I criticise the design for is the fact that you know how most car brands have a design that goes through their entire brand.
Yeah, this doesn't.
That's the thing. The 3 looks similar. The Y looks similar. Even the X, to a large extent,
it's got a similar front end.
You can tell it's a Tesla. This is wildly different.
Well, this is straight out of Halo. Have you ever played the game Halo? That is exactly what that's come from, or the designer at least took inspiration from that. I do like the headlights.
Yeah, that single sort of...
They're pretty baller.
Yeah, they're pretty
I do actually like that. They also look so blindingly bright that if you are a car coming the other way, I don't know how you'd be able to see.
But if it was my shrapnel and it was my money going on a truck today, and if that was on the off-road today, probably still end up getting a Hilux.
Yeah, in the UK.
That's the thing. I'm talking about the UK.
These also are massive. I saw a picture of it. I saw a picture of it next to an F-150, which obviously is like the best-selling one in America.
Yeah.
And world, I think, at this point. And it was a lot bigger than it.
Yeah.
So they're big enough for UK roads as it is. If this is even bigger, it's just not going to fit anywhere.
No, I would much rather get myself a Hilux. I know they fit on UK roads, and I also know. Speaking of reliability.
Yeah, and they can do over 500 miles on a tank, but that's a different thing. But one thing that did come good out of this, the electric quad.
Oh, okay.
that went in the back.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. No, I think this is a good step forwards for electric technology.
Yeah.
And
also,
also
it can tow over £14,000.
Yeah, there's no mucking
No idea what that'll do to the range.
No.
I'm pretty sure it'll be non-existent if you're pulling that sort of weight. But
I think they're doing very clever things with build, and I think they're doing very clever things with electric technology. So, yeah okay.
And very much he is a marketing man, and he's marketed it well. Even though the window smashed, he took it on the chin.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I can't deny it. It was hilarious. So just a little comparison. If you are in America, and obviously you do want a pickup truck, the best selling one at the moment is the F-150. So you can get the absolute all singing, all dancing, limited edition, brand new, top spec, job lot on it for $67,000.
So that's just shy of the tri-motor version that we were discussing of the Cybertruck.
But you don't get the electric motors, obviously. You probably don't get as much tech on it. Again, personally, I think it looks better, but
I think that's
just
subjective. And I think I would say it's a more conventional styling.
But when you want a utilitarian vehicle, sometimes conventional is better because it works and fits stuff in. Like it's a perfect square back, which means you can fit your things in. And all that
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a work vehicle, it probably does work slightly better. I think the Tesla's more for just people showing off and not actually doing anything with it. But that's by the by. So price-wise, I'm surprised how cheap it is.
What, the Cybertruck?
Tesla, yeah, I'm surprised how cheap it is. But I know they're trying to make more money and bring things down.
Yeah.
But that very much does surprise me how cheap it is, and credit for them for that. So the next one, just let you talk about this because you're very keen on it, is the upcoming F-Type.
Yeah, so very quickly, obviously, we saw some pictures earlier this week of the testing for the facelifted version of the F-Type. This is probably tiding them over until the new mid-engine sort of model comes in, isn't it?
If that's real, but I'm pretty sure it is.
If it's real, hopefully it's real, because obviously that'd be cool. And one of the things that I would be interested in seeing is them focusing a little bit more on their 2-litre version of the F-Type. For as much as I love the V8 version, you've got to remember that Jag are in Formula E and they're very much bought into it. Not to mention they've got the I-Pace. I think with the direction that they're taking sort of the brand, if you like, I would like to see more work done on the 2-litre 4-pot. The current one they've got, as in reviews, isn't as good as some of the other 2-litre engines available out there. So I'd like to see some improvement on that in the facelifted model.
And even to be fair, they could, in some instance, borrow bits from other companies. Like, I don't know any example, but so Mitsubishi used to do 400 horsepower 2-litre engines years ago.
Well, it's take Aston Martin, borrowing the V8 from AMG. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as such. Maybe it would be worthwhile and beneficial for Jaguar to develop their own proper 2-litre 4-pot because they can sell it in a lot of their cars.
Yeah,
they could drop it into an XF, they can drop it into an XE, they can drop it into an F-Type, they can drop it into an F-Pace. I think,
and the E-Pace
and the E-Pace and whatever. So I think it's worthwhile them developing their own 2-litre engine. So yeah, the trouble is though, maybe they're on the cusp of downsizing even from that.
I think they will, to be honest. I can't see it in the facelift one disappearing, but I think the V8 is on the way out. Like AMG have announced they're stopping doing the V8s and stuff, and they're probably going to be focusing a lot more, like you say, on the 4 and 6 cylinders for now, and then even the 6 cylinder is going to drop out completely.
Yeah, I'm also thinking as well, at some point they'll probably introduce a 3-pot.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like they're unconventional tech anymore, and we've seen from 3-pots you can get plenty of power out of them.
Yeah, and they do sound good.
I mean, Christ, we're talking back time in history, but obviously one of the most famous 3-pot sports cars is the BMW i8. Yeah. Yes, it's got hybrid technology to help it along, but that's got more than 300 horsepower.
Yeah, so it is doable.
So it is certainly doable.
It's certainly doable. I think that is a good place to end. I'm quite excited to see what this is going to be like.
Me too.
And I think more so interior tech as well, which is going to be updated a lot.
Yeah.
But again, thank you obviously for Leif submitting some of the... we've done some more topics as well, which we'll cover in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But thank you for submitting that topic. Obviously, if anyone else has got anything you want us to talk about, obviously hit me up and we can certainly get that going for you. So all the links will be below, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, see you later.
Thank you. Bye.